This is Educated Artistry. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Educated Artistry. I am super excited to be joined by my guest today, Ashley. She is the owner of Aura Beauty, or Aura by Ashley, sorry, where she offers lash extensions and mentorship. Ashley transitioned from medical pro to beauty pro. She built her clientele and filled her books within 5 months out of esthetician school and was hitting five-figure months within her first year of business. And then when she moved to California with 0 clients, she was also able to build a full book within 3 months, which I am super excited to hear more details of her story about. Ashley has a passion for teaching beauty pros how to get fully booked through soulful marketing and authenticity. And I'm excited to have her join us today so we can dive deeper into her story, talk about authentic marketing and client building while building a community of raving fans. So welcome to the podcast, Ashley.
Oh my gosh, Kayla, thank you so much for having me. This is so fun. I have loved your work, and your TikTok, especially recently, has been so fun to watch. So when you were like, hey, like, does anyone want to record a podcast? I was like, me.
Yes, and I loved that you reached out. I freaking love when people like put themselves out there. And once you sent in your application, and then even when I was reading through the booking questions I asked you, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited for this conversation. And I want to start with your journey before lashes. So, what was your job in the medical field, and then what led you to transition out of that into the beauty industry?
Yeah, so I had worked in healthcare for 10 years before like got out of it. The peak point was the pandemic. Couple years before that, I had wanted to switch and go to esthetician school, but with like work and life, it was hard to do both. But yeah, I am formerly a pediatric ICU respiratory therapist.
Wow.
So quite a different change from what I do now. But yeah, like honestly, my mental health took a huge toll taking care of children who were suffering day in and day out. It was always chaotic. Most of my career was either ICU or ER. So just
Mm,
constant running around, constant like somebody's on the brink of, death basically.
oh my God.
And I just got so much anxiety. Found myself eventually just crying in the med room by myself, not not even necessarily being like having something going on that day, but just being so triggered by the alarms and the scenario, and constantly being short staffed and feeling like I was barely getting there on time for patients was a really bad feeling to have. So I'm super grateful now to only work with one lash client at a time, right? Like you can't do two lash clients at a time.
Yeah, no, that's so true. So, how long were you in that career?
I was a CNA at first, so I did that for about 5 years, and then I was a respiratory therapist for 5 years. And
Oh, wow.
as far as like transitioning out, I always had lashes when I worked at the hospital. I was always looking at lash content. Like I knew a lot about LashCon and a lot of big people in the industry before I even went to esthetician school. And I've been wearing lashes for about 10 years. So I was always had an interest in it because I was a client for so long.
Mm.
And then eventually I was like, wait, I'm so interested in this. Like, why don't I make what I'm so obsessed with in my free time, like what I do full time, and actually get compensated for it? And who doesn't want to make people pretty for a living?
Yeah, that's definitely a very big transition for like what your day-to-day work life is, I'm sure, looking back. Did you continue working while you were going to esthetician school? Like, did you do both, or did you transition out, go to esthetician school, and then kind of go all in?
I just quit.
You just quit, yeah.
I just quit. I took a contract in Chicago working in the COVID ICU April to June 2020. And then I threw in the towel. I was like,
Yeah.
that's it. I'm done. And I signed up for the same month in June. Started in esthetician school. And then I did work part-time front desk at a waxing salon just to
Okay.
like as a receptionist because I wanted to be in the environment, like
Mm.
I knew my job was going to be completely different. Like I had never really handled people's money before, and I knew like expectation wise as far as, in healthcare, the what your role and what your job is very objective. Like keep the patient alive versus with lashes in the beauty industry, it's very subjective, right? You have to make the person happy. It doesn't matter if you like it or not. It's not like you objectively are getting the lashes on. Like you have to make sure that the client actually likes your work. So I worked there, making $14 an hour. Coming from
Oh,
a being a medical professional was
oh,
painful.
I bet. Oh my gosh. Yeah. But I do think that like just getting into the industry, getting around customers, just kind of knowing the ins and outs of that has to be really beneficial for then. And just because customer service is such a big part of it too, that even just being a receptionist, I mean, you're dealing with all of the issues and the good and the bad.
Yeah, I will never be a receptionist ever again. That was crazy. I did it for maybe like, I mean, I don't know, somewhere between like 6 and 8 months, basically esthetician school and then a little
Mm.
bit beyond. It was basically to put like barely cover my bills, and then I had renters in my house that also helped out too,
Okay. Did
financially.
you learn how to do lashes in esthetician school or did you take a course afterwards?
My esthetician school is not the best.
As
I
most
think
of them aren't.
I was gonna say, yeah, okay. I was like, I feel like everyone can
Yeah.
agree on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, she gave us tweezers that were meant for strip lashes
Oh, great.
and glue out of the refrigerator. So,
Oh,
did we have a day on it? Technically, yes. Was it
okay.
good?
Right. Okay.
No.
So then I'm assuming you invested in education after.
Oh my gosh,
No, just go for it.
I'm gonna spill the tea on this. I actually didn't take any formal education until a year into my business.
Wow. Okay.
Yes. So my lash artist who did my lashes, she was so kind. Her and one of her renters, they kind of like took me under their wing and taught me
Okay.
how to lash. But yeah, I didn't take a formal training until a year in. I felt like I couldn't afford to. And I had heard, a lot of like mixed reviews, and like there wasn't anybody in the area where I lived that I knew about that like had trainings. Like Live Bay was the one I ended up taking
Okay.
a year in. But by that time I felt like I had learned so much, like
No,
just by trial and error.
yeah, and I wouldn't even like, I feel like you could argue that like there are classes that you could say are formal education of people that are trainers, but like maybe they're also not, you may have gotten more from being kind of in a mentorship based, shadowing
Mhm.
based type of thing. So, I wouldn't like necessarily say that's not formal education because probably learned a ton. And if you felt like a year in, you already knew a lot of this stuff, then that's really good too. And that is nice that you had somebody that was able to do that for you because I feel like that's rare to find.
I felt so grateful because at the time, even in 2021, even in 2021, nobody offered mentorship like they do now. Nobody
No.
offered coaching, which is not even that long ago. Like three
Yeah.
years ago, nobody was like, oh, yeah, you can schedule a coaching call with me, or like you can do mentorship. Like nobody had that even 3 years ago.
Oh my gosh. Well, I started in 2015 and everything was so secret. Like they would make, when I started, I was an employee and they would make us tape our adhesive. So like if another lash artist came in to get their lashes done, like they wouldn't know what the adhesive was, which like adhesive was not good back then anyway. Like in 2015, it all kind of sucked. But yeah, it's amazing that just a couple years ago, there were no such thing as business coaches in the lash industry. Like there was very, very few people who were offering business structure courses at all compared to now today. It's like they're in abundance almost, which is nice because I feel like there's so many other pieces of running a beauty business that's not just the technical like skill of it, but then there's so many like sub parts of there's the business side of things that we have to learn. So it's great.
Yeah, business mentorship is like actually very vague, but like also all
Yeah.
encompassing at the
Hmm.
same time.
Yeah. So, how are you able to get fully booked within 5 months of esthetician school? Because I feel like that is unheard of sometimes. And I feel like there's probably a lot of people listening. And I feel like I've seen it go around this year, especially people feeling like they're having a hard time building their clientele, even as established lash artists or someone who's been doing it for many years. So, how did you get fully booked, like straight out of esthetician school?
Honestly, there were a few people that I watched online who I just was so gravitated to. There's this girl, Skin by Nari. She is an amazing esthetician. She's blown up so much recently, but I was like, oh my God, like I am a medical professional. I have never been on social media other than using those crappy filters that was on Instagram. Like,
Right.
but I feel like, okay, like I keep wanting to watch Nari's Instagram. I feel so connected to her. She shares her journey. I know I'm not the best lash artist in the world because I'm brand spanking new. And so I thought to myself, well, I know that I can connect with people really well. I know I can create relationships really well. And when I thought about, okay, how does a consumer, a client make a decision on why they want to book with somebody, right? Like you either identify with them somehow,
Hmm.
so like that relation or that relatability aspect, aspirational, and or you're on a technical level, you're really talented. That was out the window because I was brand new. So I was like, okay, we're gonna market with personality, we're gonna market with journey, we're gonna market with you're gonna have a damn good time when you come in. That's all I had.
Yes. I
That's
love that.
literally all I had.
I love that though, because I feel like it's so true because it is building that relationship. I had so many people that, and this, like, even in 2015, 2016, like, even marketing on Instagram wasn't huge then, but I had people who would book with me based on, the crappy photos I would post. And I have always been somebody that would speak on stories. Like, I have never really been, well, I wouldn't say I've never been camera shy. I feel like I've always been pretty like comfortable of talking to the camera and stuff and making content that even when it came to like headshots that were on the website that and my little description, people were booking based on that because it like showed some of my personality through it. And I think that that's something so important for new artists to hear because it doesn't have to be all about your skill right away.
It doesn't, and it never has to be. Obviously, there comes a point where like you can't be 5 years in and like your retention doesn't last a week, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's not going to work. So I think the beautiful, conclusion you need to come to is, okay, build with personality, build your skill while you're doing that and building your clientele. So my commitment was to myself was, okay, social media is the fastest way to grow. Like, a few years ago, like we all knew that. So I committed to posting 5 days a week. Didn't care if it was good, didn't care if it was bad, posted. I posted it, I put it out there. I was like, I'm new. If you're going to come for me because my content sucks, I'm new. I'm doing my best. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm new. And then I really just wanted to show my journey of transitioning out and how much I enjoyed it, my enthusiasm for it, and listening to my clients, making them feel human. That was something that I learned in healthcare. Like when you're at bedside with a patient who is suffering, like you need to listen to them. You need to make
Yeah.
them feel heard. And I really feel like that bedside manner, that energy translated really well to the lashing space. And then sprinkled in with asking people who I looked up to for advice, as well as, really great customer service.
No, I think that's amazing. And I love that you even said sharing your journey. What do you feel like you posted a lot of? Because I feel like there's some people that they're afraid to share too much. And they're like, what's too much to share? What's a good balance of certain things to share? Because you do have to give part, not like, I don't want to say you have to spill all your deep, dark secrets, but there's a part of your personality and your personal life that you kind of have to bring into your content. So, what was kind of some things or examples that you have from that?
Yeah, so back then I actually did bridal makeup as well, and I did a little bit of skin as well. So I was sharing tips, and then of course lashes was my main gig. But I focus on teaching clients about lashes because even now today, like I'll have clients come in, which lashes are extremely popular now. I feel like they're a lot more mainstream even in the
Yeah.
last few years. How do you take care of your lashes? What is the expectation for it? How do you maintain good retention? What is the lash growth cycle like? My clients loved educational pieces. It didn't get a lot of engagement, but every time a client would come in new, returning client, they'd be like, "Oh my gosh, I love that you're always sharing how do I take care of my lashes? What should I expect? Like, what are your principles that you conduct while you are doing lashes, right?" Everyone has a different approach. Everyone has different standards for how they lash, and there's multiple ways to get to, the right answer or a happy customer.
Hmm.
So as far as like my journey getting out of the medical field, I also shared about how grateful I was for my clients who were actually coming in and trusting me.
Mm.
I think this day and age, people buy differently now and people really want to feel appreciated in a world full of people who are maybe slightly rude or a little bit catty. I really wanted to show gratefulness because first of all, I truly was grateful. Like being able to leave my healthcare career where I was begging for anxiety medication from my primary care doctor, and now being so excited about my new career, I was like, thank you for letting me be here. Thank you for letting me walk away from that because obviously working in healthcare, like I made good money. Like I made good money. I bought a house by myself. I was able to travel the world. Like I've been to all 7 continents. Like I'm so grateful that I got to do that with my medical career. But I was like, okay, this is like a really big risk to just
Yeah.
say bye to it all and like, not have a consistent income and, now pay for your medical insurance yourself, like all the expenses that and fears that come with becoming an entrepreneur. I really wanted to say thank you to them and sh- tell them like, okay, this is like what I walked away from. This is what I'm going to be doing now. And I'm so excited for you to be here. And like, if you've ever felt like, there's something that you want to say no to in your life, like I want to be a person in your life who says, yeah, like if something is not serving you and is making you truly miserable, like you can do it. Like
Yeah.
you can absolutely do it. It's gonna be freaking hard. It's gonna be freaking hard, but you can absolutely do it. And so I think that is something that like my clients like would talk to me about all the time. They're like, oh my God, like you worked in healthcare and like now you work for yourself. Like, how did you do that? And it's like when something is just so not right for you, your body will tell you. I was in so much pain. My mental health was suffering and like I was not an anxious person. And ultimately, I felt like my life and my purpose was meant for more.
Mm.
And I think a lot of us who are in jobs or especially who are in jobs where we feel underappreciated, underpaid, and our bosses are not recognizing us for all the efforts that we have. Like I think a lot of people can really resonate with that. Like
Absolutely. Yeah.
that's why entrepreneurship exists, right? Like we want to be surrounded with people who appreciate us. Like you don't even necessarily have to like pay us more. Obviously, that's like a really great perk of like setting your own prices as an entrepreneur, but like humanize yourself, humanize, the people who work for you. And like I'm so grateful for I always try to humanize myself and like every time a client leaves, I'm like, "Thank you for letting me lash you. Like I'm so excited to see you next time."
Yeah.
It's a small thing. It's a small thing. Or like I'll also say, it's always good to see you. Like it's just a small thing, but people don't hear that all the time, right?
It's such a good point because I do feel like that's important too when just people are wanting to build and retain clients, right? Especially in the lash industry, we have one of those careers where you see your clients so often, 2 to 3 weeks, you're seeing them. So there gets to a point where you can only take a certain amount of people, like physically. So you
Right.
get to this point where you need to be able to retain those clients. So you're not constantly having to like market to new clients. You're able to retain this group of clients and then eventually, you'll do your price increases and all that stuff as you grow. But I think that that's such an important part that a lot of people forget is showing the gratitude to your clients and even small things like using their name when they walk in the door or when they leave, like that's huge. Or not sitting at your
Yes.
chair, texting on your phone when they walk in. Like if you see them pull up, like go open the door for them. It's like those little things that humanize it. And that's the big things that create those experiences for people that they're going to want to stay with you long term. And that's how you keep like a really loyal clientele too. So I love that you brought that up and just sharing the gratitude, which I feel like all of us, like, I feel like we all can work on that probably probably more is just having gratitude for where we are in our journey. And I love how you were saying just in the beginning, you're like, just thank you so much for coming in and like making me being able to leave this career in the medical field and start this whole new process and this journey. And just even having that gratitude then when you maybe only have one client, come in that day, and having that same level of gratitude to then when you're also fully booked is so freaking important.
I don't know where I heard this, but in the beginning, of course, it's like very up and down, but I read this quote and it never left me. And it's something that I still implement today. Even if you only have one client, treat them like they are your only client. So every
Literally.
client you have to treat them like they are your only client, that you are so grateful, because you want to hold on to that one client forever. Because
Mhm.
your marketing efforts consistently being put out, like treat them like they're gold. Every single one, even if, maybe they're not like always so grateful towards you, they're taking time out of their day to spend time and energy and money with you. Like treat them like they're your only one. Even if you have 100, you have to
Yeah.
treat them like they're the most important.
It is so true. And I always tell people as well, like when they're like, well, I need to get new clients. How do I get new clients? And my first question is like, what are you doing with your current clients? Like, how are you treating your current clients? What's the experience like? Like, and also too, sometimes something big too, I'm like, do you have things you can upsell to your current clients? Because it is so much easier to upsell to someone who's already coming in and spending money with
Mhm.
you and trust you versus like putting out those efforts to getting in a new full paying client. And I do think that we forget that. We forget to be grateful for the ones that are already with us, giving us their hard-earned
Yes.
money, right? I
Yes,
wanted to ask
absolutely.
you because you'd mentioned this when we were prepping for the interview, relationships beat algorithms. Can you elaborate on that? Because especially in the social media world that we're in, where everybody is so worried about what the algorithm is doing, how it's changing, and maybe even they blame that on the reason why they're not getting good engagement or getting clientele. Can you elaborate on that? Relationships beat algorithms? Because I loved it.
Y- Yes, George Bryant is a incredible social media marketer, and I don't think I really understood the weight of that when I first read it, but then as time went on and you think about those things, that saying relationships beat algorithms, your community is everything.
Yeah.
If you are having an issue with conversion, if you're having an issue with people booking with you, you need to work on your community. And what does having community mean? People who care about you, people who have a relationship with you, and people who want to keep coming back.
Hmm.
There is something that you need to refine in your process, in your them coming in the door, their experience with you, them leaving the door, how you get them back in the door. If you're having a conversion issue, you need to focus on your community, and your relationship that you have with them is everything. That's the difference between a client who, when you're sick and you're not able to work, is somebody who goes, "Oh my gosh, no worries at all. Get me in with you can," versus being like, "Well, I just booked an appointment with you today. I want you to work."
Yeah. Or, okay, fine, I'm going somewhere else.
Or, "Okay, fine, I'm going somewhere else." They won't wait for you because they want to be served. A client who is connected with you, has a relationship with you, who cares about you,
Hmm.
somebody you're authentic with and you're open and honest with, is much more understanding, right? If you think of it as like a best friend or a family member or even your partner, we give a lot more leeway to people that we love.
So true. Yeah. I mean that's I even have an example from 2 weeks ago because I was sick. I only take clients 2 days a week, but I had to reschedule my whole week and I lease out my bed on my off days. So I don't have a ton of like room to move people to different days and stuff. I usually have like one makeup day, which is usually Mondays, that if something happens and I have to move people, I can move them to Monday. And it was just funny. And it's just one of those things because I'm so consistent with my clients. We're like, I'm rarely ever sick. I'm never like rescheduling on them last minute or crazy or like running late or anything like that. So I'm so consistent with them that when these things happen, and although like I always still feel bad where I'm like, I'm so sorry I'm being an inconvenience. And then they were all like, no worries. Let me know when you can get me in. It's totally fine. And then I'd be like, okay, it might be next week. And they're like, it's okay. And there was one client because I was starting to not feel good and I was like, I need to reschedule my day. I was like, I can get you in tomorrow if I'm feeling better. And obviously I still got sick and I was texted the next day. I was like, okay, tomorrow today's not gonna work either. She's like, I didn't even put it in my calendar because I knew that you needed the extra time and that you weren't gonna end up working and stuff. And and that is just something that was so sweet. And it's like it does make all the difference with building those relationships too.
Yeah, I think when you're your authentic self, and especially you with your history, I'm the same way with my clients. Like
Mhm.
my clients know if you have a booked appointment at this time on this day, I'm not rescheduling you last
Yeah.
minute. I'm not flaking last minute. And so there's that sense of trust, right? And you've built that same sense of trust with your
Yeah.
clients too, to be like, if I'm saying I'm unwell, like, you know I'm
You know
unwell.
I'm unwell. Yeah, I am unwell, literally. And that is the big thing because, there are times where I've had clients come to me from other artists and they're like, I loved her. She did amazing work, but it was inconsistent on, she would forget that I had an appointment. I would show up and nobody would be there. She'd be running late. She'd be talking on the phone, like whatever it is. And to me, I'm just like, how does that even, like, I don't know some way that I was raised with some work ethic. I'm just like, how does that even happen? Like that is just so crazy to me. But it is true that I think it's those things that we don't that the small things that make such a big difference to clients and building those relationships with them.
Yeah, you cannot command luxury pricing or six-figure artist pricing if you're behaving as if this is a part-time gig and you don't really care. Because if you don't really care, then why should your clients care?
Yeah, exactly. So I want to still go into your more of your building your clientele because you'd built that first initial clientele within 5 months, and then you moved to California where you had to start with zero clients again. So did your strategy change at all when you did that, or was it kind of still the same thing where you're like, I talked about my journey? Was there anything else that you did?
Initially, I tried something different because I felt like the second time in California, I was like, oh, like, first of all, it was very humbling, okay?
Mm-hmm.
It was a very humbling experience. I was like, oh, like I'm already hitting 5-figure months consistently. I can move to a new spot. I'm going to do that straight away. Maybe even the first month. Like, okay,
Right.
ego check. Wow. Like huge ego check. Like,
Yeah.
so then for like the first month, I was like freaking out. I was like, oh shit, like this is not working. Like, this is not working, panicking and being like, wait a second, do what you did the first time. Do
Mm.
exactly what you did the first time. Even if you're established, people don't know who the heck you are. Like, you can't just like come into a new town and, have people trust you out of nowhere. Nobody knows you. No girlfriends are
Yeah.
like, oh, yeah, you should go see Ashley. Or like, oh, yeah, I loved, your work isn't out in the city, in this new city. So why are you acting like you're hot shit? Like, so yeah, huge ego check. Uh,
I think that's
but
important though, because in the beginning, how you were saying that you either needed like the connection or the skills, and you now have the skills, but that's how important the connection is, right? Because it's like you can have the skills, but you still need that connection to be able to get
yes,
people to come into you.
yes. And so I was like, okay, go back to what you did before. Now talk about how you lived in Denver for 5.5 years. And like now I have the privilege to come back to where I used to live when, I grew up here in San Diego. And so now I was like, now I don't have to deal with winter anymore. And yeah, just rebuilding my community here, like finding other lash artist friends. And I did free work, just like I did in the first time to build my portfolio here. So people would talk about my work here. And yeah, again, I just showed up with my authentic self on stories, really try to build community that way. I ran boosted ads.
Okay.
I think probably then I did probably more like $10 a day because I had more money to do that. But when I first started, I did $5 a day. And this is something that I teach my mentorship students, that if you're listening to this podcast, you need to try to implement this. Every one of us has tried a boosted ad. I don't care who you are, I don't care how big or small you are. I feel like everybody has tried to do a boosted ad, but what do you do with the results from the ad?
Yeah.
I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, okay. I got new followers from it, but like nobody booked." Are you building a relationship with them?
Right.
They followed you. They're liking your content. They maybe even, are responding and liking on your stories. Are you saying, hey girl, thanks for the follow. How did you find me?
Mm, so
It's so
good.
it's
Yeah.
so simple. It's so simple, but I cannot tell you the amount of clients who I've booked from that. Nobody
I bet.
comes to your page and like just is like, oh, I'm just gonna like book with this stranger. Like, why should I book with this stranger?
Mhm.
My girl Hannah goes and sees this other lash artist that like I've seen her work and is really good.
Yeah.
But if you reach out to them and you're like, oh yeah, like, hey girl, I really appreciate your follow. That's something I learned from George Bryant too. If somebody is engaging with your content and somebody's following you, they're begging for you to talk to them.
It is
Because
so true. Oh my gosh.
yes,
Yeah. No, I love
like
that so much. And that's part of that relationship building. It's almost like, I'm trying to think of something. It almost makes me feel like dating or something, where it's just like you follow them and then you just like
yes,
ghost
yes.
them. It's like, don't ghost them. Like, go start a conversation. I don't know.
Yeah, and like you're not trying to pitch yourself right on that
No.
first message. You're just like, "Hey girl, I appreciate you for being here. Thank you for the follow. How did you find me?" So it's kind of like the softball question that is like, "Where did you come from? Like, are you a
Yeah.
referral? Are you from a client I'm already servicing? Did you find me from an Instagram ad?" And then from there, you ask them, they'll answer your question, and then you ask them like, "Oh, okay, like have you ever gotten your lashes done before?"
Hmm.
And they're like, "Oh yeah, like I've actually been looking to switch." Or yes, I have an event coming up. Why the heck would they follow you? They're following you
Exactly.
for a reason, right? Like,
Exactly.
but you have to kind of like coax them and like, kind of pull it out from them. Some people like if they don't respond to that initial message, obviously like I'm not, you know, gonna hunt them down. Like if
Yeah.
they're not, I'm not gonna be like, you didn't respond to me, like get
Yeah.
back to me. But I would say 50% of the time, which is, 50% of the time people will respond to you and end up booking with you.
Yeah. I love that because like I never really did boosted posts. I mean, I have like randomly throughout my career, but not really intentionally or anything. It was more when it first started and I was like, what is this about? Like, let's try it. But I think
Mhm.
that that's good, especially when people are going to put money towards, their marketing. That's really valuable information to know is that, yeah, you can put this money behind this content to boost it. And I'm sure you made sure it was boosted locally because I know there's a bunch of different options and stuff. But
Yes.
there is still a step. Just because you're paying for it doesn't mean it's just going to book clients for you right away, which I think sometimes people with like Facebook ads and stuff, kind of what I've seen with their marketing strategy is like, oh, like take my course on how to run ads and then you'll get like 100 bookings a day and stuff. But it's like there is a part of that relationship building that you still have to do. I see it as just literally a boost to get your content in front of local people and have it be that's what it is, and it's your
I
job
think
to continue the process.
it's 100% your job to, continue the process. I think people get really confused when it comes to boosted posts. That's my what I've used the most
Hmm.
as far as my career. It's a lead generator is
Yeah.
how I think of it. It's,
Mm,
it's as a lead generator, somebody you got in front of somebody, they hit that follow button. It's not a cold DM to me. That's not
yeah.
how I see it. And I'm not pitching them on my first message. I'm just like, "Hey, how did you find me?" Like,
Yeah.
and what I thought was actually so cool. So like at that time I was very vigilant about anybody who was new when I first moved to California, to ask them where they came from. The amount of clients who came from Denver referrals to here in San Diego was insane. Like I
Really?
kid you not. Yes, like my first like 90 days of business here, I probably saw like 20 clients that were from either from Denver coming here to San Diego for like a bachelorette party, some sort of event, or traveling for work, or a referral from Denver.
Oh my
It
gosh, that's so cool.
works across states too. But that's relationship building.
Exactly. Because if you didn't have those relationships with those people, they wouldn't be so like, you need to go see Ashley, like if you're going to be over here. So that is really freaking sweet. And I love that you did talk about too about doing free sets because especially when you went to California, you're now an established artist where I can get where some people are like, "Ugh, I've like worked my way up. Like, why am I doing my work for free?" Right? But I do think free sets, to me, I would rather do free model sets. And I've done a full episode. I've talked about this a ton. I'd rather
Mhm.
do a free model set than discount my services. And for me, it's
Ooh.
because I feel like with a model set, you are getting more of an exchange of services. So
Mhm.
whether it's like you're wanting to build clientele, you're wanting to build your portfolio, maybe you want to just film a bunch of content. Like to me, that's more of an exchange of services because I feel like, and not to say you can't discount your services, but I do feel like what a lot of people do when they're trying to build clients is they use that discount as the reason why somebody should come in and they're not coming in, you're not gaining those clients because they value the service that you have, that they're coming in because you're doing 50% off or whatever, which that can be a whole thing of just like the type of clientele that you want to come in. But also for me, I always take it back to like my retail days where I used to work at Express and they always had coupons going on like all the time. So I never personally valued their stuff at full price because I'm like, there's a coupon. If there's not one today, there's going to be one tomorrow. So I always thought of it that way too with like my services. If you're constantly giving people discounts and you every month you have this new special that's like this crazy amount of money off the service, who's ever going to value you at your full price? So for me, I've always just been like, I'd rather do a free set and work out some sort of exchange of services rather than just constantly doing discounted services. And then I feel like majority of the time when you do a free set too, you end up getting them to be a recurring client. So
Yes, I would
there's,
agree with that. I agree with you. I don't do discounted services either. I'm either doing full sets for free or they're my full price. I
yeah,
actually, in both states, um, and I know everyone has a different perspective on this too, but I've always tried to do referral
I was
bonuses.
going to ask you about that. Yeah.
It's never worked for me,
Where
either
you
state.
like have a client, if they refer somebody, you give them a discount on their service or,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yep. It's never worked for me. And I like now that I've been in two states, I don't think it's the, you know, I always think of a business as even if you're not doing one thing, it's not going to be the one thing that makes or breaks you. So if you don't have a referral system, like don't freak out about it. Like
yeah,
it's not going to be the one thing that makes or breaks your business.
yeah,
Um, I think successful businesses are all encompassing. There's more than one thing that makes you successful. But yeah, I don't even talk about a referral bonus anymore because it's never worked for me. And I want to like my first time I tried it for like maybe a couple weeks and then I was like, "You know what? Actually, I'm going to get rid of this because I don't want people to come see me because they're getting 25 or 50 bucks off. Like I want people to come see me because they want to come see me. And
yeah,
I don't want my clients to refer other people inauthentically. And so again, I tried it for like maybe 2 weeks in both states and then I was like, yeah, that is not the way I actually like want to run my business. Like I want people to come in because they want to be here, not because they're
yeah.
getting 20, 50 bucks off.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've also tried different referral programs within like my 8 years and I feel the same that it just never really either it started where it wasn't enough. Like you have to give enough, I feel like off like 20 I would say at least $25 for people to actually be like, "Oh, this is worth it that I'm gonna like make sure I'm talking about it." But I think at the end of the day, if somebody likes your service, they're going to refer you. They don't really need the incentive of getting the
Yes.
additional money off. For me personally, like if I have a client come in that is, or somebody that's referred multiple clients to me, then maybe the next time they need cleanser, I'm like, it's on me, girl. Like, that it's something like that instead of, doing a referral program. Cause I felt the same where I never really felt like it brought in clients like the way that
Hmm.
a lot of people say. And maybe for some people it does work, but like the referral programs are like punch cards and stuff like that. Like I've never had those be something that works for me.
Hmm. Yeah, same with me. If it worked for some of you, that's great. But again, like I think my mindset has changed on it. Like if you want to be here, I want you to be here, you know?
Yeah, exactly. What was it like when you hit your first five-figure month? Like, what was your feeling like when that happened? And especially transitioning, you had like a really good paying job and you're working $14 an hour and then you're like building your business. Like, what was it like being like, holy shit, I just made five figures at this, like within this first year of business? Like, how did that feel for you?
Honestly, I'll be really honest. I had planned my pricing and my schedule to hit that, but I used to service literally 100 clients a month.
Okay, I wanted to ask you that because I feel like I saw that and I was like, how many hours were you working, girl? Like, so
Oh
yeah,
God,
let's talk about that too.
chaos.
So was that
Literal
when you
chaos.
hit that first five-figure month, you were servicing that many clients? Okay,
Yes. 5 clients a day, 5 days a week,
shit.
Monday through Friday, roughly 11 or 10 to 7:30. I tripled my monthly income from in that 1 month from what I used to make at the hospital.
Wow,
Triple, triple. It
that's
was
crazy.
like I happened to be so busy that month because I think the next month I was going on a vacation. So I was like, oh, like I want this like extra money. Like I'll just like take these extra clients. And it was like I was like, I should check. At the time I was using Vigara, I was like, oh my God, like how much money have I even made this month? And I like refreshed the little button to like be that 1 month, and I was like, did I just do that? I
Oh
just
my gosh.
oh my God. Like at the end of the day, like exhausted at like 7:30 p.m.
Right.
being like, oh my God, I freaking planned for this. Like I freaking planned my pricing, planned my hours for this, and I freaking did it. I'm like, it was like a new light bulb like unlocked inside of me. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, this is like so possible to do. Obviously, I've increased my prices. I shortly increased them after that because I was like, okay, we're not doing 100 clients a month
Right.
anymore. Love
Yeah.
you all. But yeah, it was insane. And I was doing lashes, brows, like brow laminations at the time as well, and like maybe sprinkled in some like facials at that
Oh,
time.
okay. Yeah.
Hmm.
So you raised your prices, but was there anything else you did? Because I mean, obviously 100 clients a month is not sustainable, right? Like long
No.
term. So it's like, what were besides raising your prices, was there anything else that you did, or did you raise your prices significantly enough to where you could sustain that five-figure months without, overworking? Or was that the point when you kind of started adding on mentorship and stuff like that as well?
At that point, I was still like under a year in, so I didn't
Okay.
feel confident
Oh,
in
that's
like
right. Yeah.
coaching
Hmm.
people yet. But I ended up raising my prices significantly enough where I could take less client, like one less client a day, and still make the
The
same
same.
amount.
Which I love, like you saying, like, yeah, I planned out my prices and I knew I wanted to take this many clients. This is what I'm like, that's music to my ears because I've done a lot of courses on pricing. And that is something to where I'm like, you can literally write a blueprint for how many clients you need at your price points and understand how much you want to work and all that stuff. And I'm like, you can write a blueprint and then you have that goal of like what you need to get to achieve that. And I feel like so many people go into pricing with just pulling numbers out of the thin air, maybe seeing what their competition does, and then just going for it. And then they really have no idea what their potential income is even going to be. And so I love that you said that too, because it's like music to my ears when I hear that.
So that's actually how I first found you, was your
Really?
pricing. Yeah, that was
What?
how I first found you.
Oh, did you take the
Um,
course or were you just from talking about it?
I don't think I took the course, but I think there might have been like the free workbook
Oh, yes.
download.
Mm-hmm.
And I downloaded that and I was
Shut
like, I love this
up.
girl. Yeah, that's how I first found you.
I love that. Oh my gosh, that makes me so happy. No, that's so cool because I feel like I'm like, pricing doesn't have to, it's like pretty simple math, right? It's not very hard math that you have to do.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that like made my day. That's so exciting. That's really cool. But overall, I mean, I feel like you said so many things that, I can pick out of what I think made you like successful with building a clientele so quickly. But is there anything else that, in your opinion, that you believe that made you successful with building and retaining a clientele throughout your career?
I think that once you get to a point where you're able to be authentically yourself when you show up online, you're able to be more consistent. And
Mm,
with consistency, you get more exposure and more. Basically, my goal with my business has been I want to just be top of mind. When you think of lashes, I don't want you to think, oh, there's that place down the street or my one girlfriend's lashes. I want you to be like, oh, Ashley does lashes.
yeah.
I'm going to go see her. So I realized that like when you're able to show up online authentically, share about your day, talk to the camera, build your relationships, engage with your audience, act like they're all your friends and family who are like your number one supporters, which I've been so grateful that my friends, family, and clients have been all amazing throughout this whole process.
Hmm.
Show that you love what you do, and people will come and
Yeah.
just be your authentic self. Speak the way you want to. Like I curse like a sailor. Like I've tried to refrain from that on the podcast.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I do too. So you're good.
I like I curse so much with my clients. Like I had a first time client come last week and the whole time we were cursing, I was like, God, I need like a podcast mic because the way that I talk with my clients is literally insane.
Hmm.
But like when you can show up as yourself on socials, like you are with your friends, your family, your biggest supporters, you're going to be able to show up more and always be top of mind for people because you don't need to be the best lash artist in the world. You don't need to have the best social media presence in the world. You do need technical skill and you need the connections.
Hmm.
Whatever that is for you specifically, you need to create them so that people will come in and see you and that you're number one in their mind when they're like, should I get my lashes done? Oh, yeah. Ashley does it because she's freaking on my feed every single day, you know?
So true. And then they feel like they already know you, especially I feel like with talking to the camera and showing up on your stories. And maybe you can put in your opinion on this as well. But for me, like I don't post like hard post on my feed every day. Like I'm honestly really bad about posting on my feed. It's
Yeah.
God, I mean, on a good time, maybe twice a week. But something I really do focus on is trying to show up on my stories every day. And I think when some
Hmm.
people get caught up with content creation and feeling like, how do you put out all this stuff? Like, for me, I do think that, like you said, when you are showing up authentically, you can kind of share bits and pieces of your day and just kind of like, I think of it as like a little check in with my bestie. Like, you're texting your friends about little things that are
Yes.
going on. Like, that's kind of how I go with it, where I'm like, I'm checking in with my friends and letting them know what I'm doing. And I feel like that does make content creation so much easier when you don't feel like, oh,
Yes.
I have to constantly be putting out this perfectly curated reel or post with this amazing caption that's in depth and, has all the call to actions and everything. So I think
All
that
the
can take some
things.
stress off of people, which I love how you started. And you're like, I'm committing to posting, once a day or 5 times a week or whatever it was. And
Mhm.
that could even be something where you're just committing to showing up in your stories once a day, and like building that, I think. So,
Community building on stories is the easiest way. And I think
mm,
it gives a lot of people mental freedom because it expires automatically in the
yes.
24 hours. So you're not like, oh my God, like this has to like live on my aesthetically curated feed. No, create the content, get it on stories and connect with people. Like that will
Yeah.
be your number one bestseller. I've had people who book with me because I worked in healthcare before. I've
Hmm.
had people book with me because I'm Asian. I've had people book with me because I surf. I've had
Yeah.
people book with me because I travel the world. Nothing to do with lashes. None of that has to do with lashes.
Yeah.
And I've had people book with me, from Google. Same thing. It's like they just see your pictures, they see your style, they see how you write. Same with your Instagram. Like people are seeking connection all the time. Like that's the human experience, right? Like we
Yeah.
want to connect with people. We overcomplicate it, but
It's so true. No, I love this so much. And I love how a lot of this conversation on building clientele today has really been about building connections. And whether you're starting off and you're brand new, or you're moving and starting over, or you've been established and maybe you're feeling like your books are a little bit slow, like to kind of hone back into that piece of it, I think is so important. And not to forget that that's such an important part, because I do feel like sometimes when we do get fully booked, we do kind of get in our ego a little bit, where we're like, oh, I'm the shit. And like, everyone's going to come to me because I'm amazing. And then, it is like not forgetting those things day to day with your clients, how you treat them, but then also how you're showing up too. I wanted to ask you if there were any final pieces of advice that you wanted to give beauty professionals today that you didn't share, even though you shared so many things. But I always like to give people like their final moment if there's anything that you wanted to touch on.
my number one piece of advice, because I feel like a lot of this content is speaking to people who are not fully booked yet. So speaking to the girls who are like, I just want more clients, I just want to get fully booked. Stop putting that pressure on yourself. Have fun with where you're at. Understand where you're at, understand what your weak points are, understand what you need to work on, highlight what you're really freaking good at, and behind the scenes work on the things that you feel like you want to work on, and enjoy your process. Nobody is asking for you to be perfect. Even now today, I'll have, every now and then a client will tell me, "Hey, like, can we do this instead?" Nobody's asking you to be perfect. Show up, enjoy yourself. People want to be around people who are having fun.
Yes.
And that is something that you really have to believe in your own heart and love yourself through that process. But yeah, don't be so hard on yourself. I feel like everyone's so hard on themselves. Just have fun, enjoy your process. You're gonna make all the money in the world that you want to, but what's the point of making all the money if you're not having fun?
It is so freaking true. We all get into this because we want freedom, we want to have fun. What are you currently working on for 2024 and what are some of your goals for this year?
Oh my gosh, I love this question. I feel like I have kind of a lot of things going on, but I am working with Angie and Victoria, who I slid into their DMs. That's how I built my community. Angie is Eyelash Co on Instagram, and Victoria is Adore You Aesthetics. We are hosting a class on branding, marketing, and content creation
Ooh,
in May. It is May 2nd through 5th in San Diego, here at my studio in Mission Valley. And I'm so excited for this course because it's 4 days. It's going to be intense.
wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm. 4 days, 10 gals, and we really wanted to have a space because, like we talked about basically this whole podcast, was that okay, the technical skills, like there's a lot of courses and classes on technical skills, but I don't feel like in the lash industry there's much classes on how to brand yourself, how to
Hmm.
market yourself, how to actually create like good content that will speak to your clients and make them hit that book now button. And so we're doing that in May. I'm so excited for that. And then I am working on furthering my mentorship this year as well and creating online courses. I would love to offer the Educated Artistry listeners a VIP week of coaching. It'll be for $3.99. I want to help anybody who feels not so connected to their Instagram, not so connected to maybe their social media presence, to create an authentic like content strategy that with like an actionable to-do list for you to actually, you know, break down your next big goal and help you stand out online.
I love that so much. I want to thank you so much for coming on here and sharing your story and all of the good advice that you have about building clientele. I know it's going to be so valuable to a lot of people. Why don't you just tell everybody where that they can find you for your Instagram and like TikTok or if there's anywhere else? And I will include all of the links because you were great to include the links to your coaching and then all of the other courses. And I think you had some freebies too. So I'll make sure that all that's included so that way you guys can follow Ashley and go check out all of her stuff. But just let them know where they can find you.
Awesome. Yes, you can find me on Instagram at aura.by.ashley, and then my TikTok is the same.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Ashley. It was so fun getting to talk with you. And I just love this conversation so much.
Thank you, Kayla, for your time and, giving a smaller artist a chance to be on your podcast. I really appreciate
Oh
it.
my gosh, I love it.